This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Do we actually have?
Go ahead.
I was going to ask if we actually had a quorum if we're going to be voting on anything tonight. I know that there's some people who said they couldn't make it.
We got 4, so that should do it.
Okay.
And although we enjoy
Megan,
Ed's company, unfortunately he does not get the vote.
No, I know.
So the first item on our agenda is talk about website vendors. So Dan Breen was nice enough to put together this spreadsheet comparing the two possible vendors. Do you want to walk us through this, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, it was somewhat arbitrary, just trying to think of what metrics might be useful to look at. And I debated if I should try to weight some of these and come up with a formula, but I mean, that's just so overkill. I think the cost is pretty remarkably different. So, I mean, I think Final Site overall is a better platform, probably. I guess it's more user-friendly. But Civic Plus does a boatload of town websites, so I think there's certainly some a reason that's the case, and the pricing is very attractive.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're dead on there. You know, their price is hard to beat, and they definitely perform well in many municipalities. So
right. One thing that Adam I think mentioned was that the town of Athol is Civic Plus, but they're going to Final Site. I'd be curious the reasoning.
I can reach out to them and see if I can find out.
Yeah, if only curiosity.
Dan, I seem to recall with one of the vendor presentations, something about the back end was Drupal and related, or it didn't.
that was Civic Plus, right?
Was
Yep.
it Civic Plus? And,
Sorry, the other Dan. I'll be quiet.
oh, either one. Yeah, Dan's quick. But it was, yeah, I couldn't remember which one, and I wasn't sure how far along they've got in terms of releasing something other than a beta version of an updated system.
Yeah, I think Megan brought that up way back, that they were in the process of updating to, I don't know, 9 or something.
I think so. And it was just very outdated. So it just didn't sit right with me
Yeah,
that they were on an old system, but it would take a lot. Dan, you had mentioned it would take a lot to move every website. So
right. And if they're doing, I guess we could clarify with Sal, but if they're doing a new instance for us, I would expect it to be on their latest version. So at least we start on a more modern one if it doesn't continue to get updates as quickly.
So it sounds like we're going to recommend going with Civic Plus. Do we want to take a vote as to which of the two we want to recommend to the select board?
Well, it's either that, or do we go out and try to find another company that's dealing with Massachusetts municipalities that isn't utilizing Drupal?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we can clarify that question, if Dan can clarify for us that their new instance is going to be on a new, more up-to-date back end, that kind of satisfies, maybe in my mind, that we wouldn't be on an older version. Or are we talking, Dan, that are we talking the rendering of pages being the back end being Drupal, that you can't do certain modern day web things like, I mean, the HTML5 and
I don't know that would really be an issue. I guess for me, it's more admin usability. I think the front end's probably not going to be limited that much. And it's built on Drupal, but it's not like it's off the shelf Drupal. I'm sure they highly customized it, especially for town government types of things. It would just be, well, the speed of updates. So starting on a fresh version, new version is great. But then 3 years from now, are there new features that would be useful? I mean, at the speed that towns move, probably it's not that big of a deal. Maybe 10 years out, it's more of an issue. I just think Drupal is probably a little bit clunky compared to Composer, which was the final site engine, because they custom built it. Drupal's meant for all kinds of websites, and Civic Plus likely catered it to towns, but starting from scratch with towns in mind, although it was really more for schools. But I feel like it's going to be a slicker interface and easier to use. I don't know if we could put some sort of cost on that, like how much time will we spend not having to work around a clunkier thing, and is it going to be worth it to pay more for that? It's a difficult question.
Yeah, is there not WYSIWYG editing on, sort of that, putting, sort of designing a new page? I think.
Yeah, there's kind of two terms of WYSIWYG. One would be the text editor, and you're typing and you're seeing it. But I think in this context, it was more with Composer, with Final Site, you're looking at the page that the users see, except there's a couple admin treatments you can click, like, oh, I want to edit this section. So as you're building the page, it basically looks, the whole page looks the way it will look for users. Whereas at Civic Plus, yeah, they got a nice editor, but I think you were like in the back end admin interface, like create a new page, and then you could preview it on the site. But it wasn't like quite as WYSIWYG, I guess.
And my other question with Final Site, I'm sure that there, and I didn't get to see all of the Civic Plus presentation, but I've seen systems similar to Final Site, and it sounds like there's a lot of different modules that we may or may not use. I mean, you could build a whole intranet around things if you want to manage logins and those types of things. And I'm just curious if the dollar amounts that we'd be paying for is truly the modules. Like, is it like a complete package you get from Final Site, or do you, there are modules and then add-on modules?
Right.
Like, I'm curious to know if the price comparison really gets down to the functionality and the types of things, if it's comparable between the two.
I mean, maybe Ed can speak to that a bit, because he did say that the quote was reduced by removing some features, and those are on page 5 of the PDF that Adam had sent over.
Well, it wasn't really by reducing some of the features. It was just reduced, trying to make the sale to us. I think it went from 6,500 to 5,500.
Mm-hmm.
But that is what they get for their annual support fees. And and Adam was open with me and said that, yeah, they feel like they've got a Cadillac of a product, and that it's worth that for the annual support cost.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we were always scraping for dollars and cents to afford things here. It's not like we have extra. I mean, if money was no object, I'd say, hey, you know what? Final Site makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get to a point where we've got an updated website that's more functional, easier to use internally and externally, and that we can afford for about, maybe what we're paying for now and our annual costs.
Are the so along the lines of costs, are the upfront costs, does it include all of the data migration, design, navigation? I mean, I'm sure there's going to have to be some input of sort of navigation and those types of things, but are they going to take a complete sort of migration from the old website, the website that's currently up, and migrate everything over? Or do we need to provide them with updates? Are they going to somehow suck that down and sort of stick it into their product? Or who's going to be doing that work? And is it that those numbers representative of, we say go and they just do it?
Well, they'll be giving us basically, guidance and support along the way. Do you like this or this? Do you like that or that? If along the way, if we want to change some things or whatever, it'll be up to us to provide that information to be included in that updated website.
So the upfront cost could change, or that's the upfront cost? I mean,
that's the upfront cost.
Okay.
I have the proposal from what date is this? January 25th. If you guys want to walk through it, just to refresh what they were offering. So just from Civic Plus. So this is just an intro. Goals for the new town website. Challenges. Your website's outdated since you rely on changing your outside of town. You can't timely information. There's too much text to scroll quite a bit. The mobile version is not a good experience. Does not meet the ADA guidelines. Things like that. So goals for the new website is probably more important. Communication, user-friendly design, better user experience, content management system, easy for the staff, functionality to subscribe, and Google for residents, ADA compliance.
I do like the responsive design because that is the way to go with it instead of like the mobile version. So responsive
Yeah,
design is good.
I think comparing all the feature sets, I think they're largely going to be equivalent between these two.
Yeah, I guess my question then becomes that upfront cost is not only the cost of the software and the cost of a project manager, but they got to train us and say, okay, now go look and see what's on your old site and now put it in this site yourself, or like I'll pick out a template, the template's there, now you go populate all the data, the content.
It's my understanding that they both could do a full
content.
Yeah, but I don't really think that's in our best interest to do it either, because I don't know, somebody's going to have to figure out what should be the new nav.
Right. So that's my question, like who's going to be doing all that work?
They work with the town on that. When I was in Beckett and we converted, we had like 4 different people, including myself, that worked on that. And so, they basically said, okay, here's our most popular designs. Which of these do you like? And then it went from there.
Who does Beckett use?
Civic Plus now.
So here you go. Here's their timeline, which may go over the details of how it would work out. So first week, define objectives, needs. Then you design meeting with client website committee. Homepage optional layout, sub-page design layout, and finalized design. So it sounds like that they're working with us in that. Site implementation, and identify the global cascading network of related links. Implement design.
There it is. Migrate existing content. Agreed existing content. So yeah, you'd meet with them and they would migrate that content. Or they would help us migrate.
Then there's training and education for support. And then you go live. And I'm not sure if this is the most up-to-date quote we have, but let's see. It says what it has. So let's see what this one says includes.
At the top, it said something about pricing that's valid only for 60 days.
Yeah, that might have gone by now.
Yeah, maybe it's 6,000 a year now. We'll have to go with final site.
5% increase each year.
I did include that in a 5-year calculation.
I noticed that. Yeah, as far as money goes, yes, we don't necessarily have it for final site per se, but for me, there's something to be said about someone going into the field, like from school into town, because they are up to date on what's new and they know kind of what the market is looking for. Civic Plus doesn't necessarily strike me as a company to be up and coming or like change. Like the ADA stuff, Final Site said it right on the editor, whereas Civic Plus, I think, just had a button to push. But if you really want an ADA, you don't want ADA people to have to push a button.
Yeah, I mean, Ed's question before was there may be other vendors, right? Or there are other vendors that are out there that we could talk to. So I mean, we don't have to make our final decision based off of two. I think we could ask a third one. I was just looking up what some other towns use, and I found a different one.
Well, we have a list. There was Proud City, Granicus, and some other one. I wonder if we could quickly just get like how much does this cost?
Yeah,
Because
we don't want the story.
Yeah,
We just want the cost.
Right. And if it's comparable with Civic Plus, maybe it's worth looking into.
Well, we probably want a little more information than that of, you know, what they use to build their platform on and what have you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it's comparable to Civic Plus on the cost, then it's worth looking more into. And then the two I mentioned, Proud City and Granicus, I don't remember specifically which towns and sites, but they did seem like pretty promising products. It wasn't just like a random URL.
Yeah, I can't remember when I was looking at them of which particular towns might have used those, but I do remember those two names of being in some of my research for what some other towns in Massachusetts or Western Massachusetts was using.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, there was somebody had sent that Excel sheet. So Holyoke's, Proud City, Goshen. Yeah, almost all of these are Civic Plus, of course.
Yeah, I think Civic Plus does like 200 of 351 towns and cities in Mass.
Yeah, not surprising.
Have you heard any, or have we solicited any feedback from those towns that use Civic Plus from a technical perspective of like some of the difficulties and the clunkiness? Is it, you know, I mean, people just get used to it and they've managed it, or are they not bothered by it? Or, I mean, I would rather see a more up-to-date product, but I'm just curious what that obstacle is. I mean, I know we're going to invest in something, and once you invest in a website management tool,
Yeah,
I mean, I agree with Megan that, you know, it's going to be a while before you're going to want to change this. So maybe, you know, I think that it is important to understand, I guess, those tools and the implication over the next, you know, 5 to 7 years.
yeah. I think the most interesting one you mentioned, one town is changing from Civic Plus to Final Site. Which town was that?
Athol, I think.
Maybe we should reach out to Athol. Be like, hey, why did you make that choice? You know?
Yeah, I already volunteered to take that one on.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ed.
Oh, you're welcome.
Ed, when you were talking to Final Sites, and I know that they kind of dropped their price, is, you know, that they are the Cadillac, they said, and this is what you get. Yeah, are there options that we could potentially maybe roll into down the road that we don't have to pay for? So if there's a module, or there's a feature, or there's something about their product that we could say, you know what, we're not interested in, you know, this type of portal access for an intranet or whatever it may be. Is there a way that we could kind of get a different price? Or I don't know if you've explored that at all.
No, there are add-ons that we can add on to, but not.
This is their base.
This is their base.
Okay. Well, you know, sometimes it does come down to the fact that, you know, if we're trying to look at modern tools, we're trying to make an investment. It may be more expensive, but as I think we've touched on, it might not always be the cheapest solution. And, you know, like what comes to mind is, you know, when you go out to bid for projects, sometimes the low bid isn't necessarily the best bid. And while I think we have to be mindful and conscientious of the costs, we also have to be mindful and conscientious that we are going to be spending a lot of money, and it needs to be a product that's going to work and fit our needs for years to come. So there's going to be a trade-off if we can't do that.
And we also don't need a product that a year from now we're going to have to sign off and not use because we can't afford the support on it. So
that is true.
Yeah,
that is true. So if there's not a true commitment for a multi-year funding, it's a big waste of time and money. I agree.
Yeah, the price differential is pretty significant, and Civic Plus seems like the real deal. So I think that seems like the way to go.
You know, just as an aside, now being involved with, you know, a couple of different projects and sort of listening to these conversations, what's becoming more and more evident is, you know, an operating budget that is a base budget that technology needs, because you're right. I mean, we could do all this work, we can get it for a year and then it's gone. And so I guess knowing, and Ed, I don't know if there is a technology line budget that's considered an operational cost that is kind of like, you got to pay for electricity, you got to pay for your online permitting systems because people are using them. And, you know, like, what is it that, you know, where do these types of things fall into? Because we do have like our backup and recovery software that's going to be, you know, potentially put it back online, and it's going to be an annual cost for that. And you're starting adding up these annual costs, which is the cost of doing business in the modern day software and software as a service and whatnot. And do we have is there a budget line that the town would or does commit to for those operational costs?
We've basically been building it because it was very lacking before. So right now, I'm trying to build a new website design on an annual basis that would be equivalent to what we're currently paying for it. 2 years ago, we didn't pay anything for what you could say was either maintenance or annual support costs or whatever, because Art did that as a volunteer without charging us. So
no more.
Right. But if you were gonna count up every single hour that you spent, if that weren't volunteer hours, you know, that's probably a considerable amount of money.
I'm sure.
It's been a, as Ed mentioned, it's been a real problem in the town. I don't think the town's ever realized the complexity and just what Kim's mentioning, that this stuff is not cheap. And I hate making decisions on cost. I never did that in my life, but this is where we are. I mean, I'm getting into this bid thing as far as some of the conservation stuff, and it's always the low bidder. I mean, this schmuck could come out of the woodwork, and he or she that bids the lowest, they win. And that's just the way it is in this damn field. But Ed's right. We got to start waking people up, and we got to start putting more money into this budget. It's ridiculous. We've done this on a shoestring, and every day I wake up and I can't believe we haven't been hit with ransomware and all sorts of stuff. We've been damn lucky, or somehow we got underneath the radar screen. But it's gonna one of these days it's just gonna kill us.
Don't jinx us, Art. I'm knocking on wood.
Well, I mean, that's unfortunately the way the town has treated this, and thank God at least we have a technology committee now, and we're thinking of some pretty grandiose stuff, MLPs, et cetera, but we don't even have the basics. I mean, it's kind of a shame that the schools have more power and more everything than we do in town hall. I think it's absolutely shameful.
Don't get me going there, because I don't want to insult Kim, but schools just about get anything they want, so they're spoiled. But and we're the ones that pay the price. Yeah. And 5 years of either inheriting budgets or trying to work with them going forward. Let's see. This year, believe it or not, was probably the lowest structural deficit we would have had from basic, not even wish list request, that was about $250,000 or $275,000 to a high mark of like $800,000. So yes, I'm a realist. So we don't have all the money in the world. I have to be conscious about, okay, what does it cost and how do we get there and how do we keep going?
Yeah,
I have
I guess.
a quick.
Go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, please.
I was going to ask a question that might turn into something, so go ahead.
Ooh.
No, not something bad. I was just okay. So, is there anything to be said about going with like? There's right in town center of East Hampton. There's a website company, Web Tactics. Is there anything to be said about going with them for a government website, like Cider House Media, or does it have to be government only?
I personally would not pick that one. I've had some my own.
Just an example.
Yeah, no, I've had some business with the individual, and it wasn't a good experience. Let's put it that way.
So I think, let me ask a clarifying question to move that forward a bit. Is the big key here having a front end so that we could have a security-based content management system? So you know, each board or department has access to only their stuff, and they're able to do content management. So they get the template, they get the design, they get the layout. They go, okay, here's the page. Now you fill in the content. And so if that's a really important feature, so that people can publish their own data once the site is designed, I don't see why we couldn't entertain other options. You know, I mean, the first time I helped a town put up a website was the town of Goshen, and it was through a grant that we got, and they didn't, there still wasn't enough money. And so we chose Google. We did Google Sites. We were able to do page level, you know, kind of access. It was kind of a pain. It was very granular, but you know, there were things out there. They're not great, but I don't know. I mean, as long as we can look at the criteria Dan put together, but also make sure that it has a front end for users to be able to authenticate, to be able to be secure, and just and doing their data and putting their content up. I don't know if workflow was part of our requirements, if someone had to approve it, or if you would just sort of allow people to, you know, you've got the login, you can post anything you want without going through any kind of workflow. That's my 2 cents.
Well, here's where I'm at with it. I think there's 2 ways we can go from this tonight. One, you choose between these, the 2 possible sites. There are vendors. There are other companies. Some people like to say they have 3 points of comparison, and it doesn't hurt with for the amount of time that this web will be dedicated to this website to invest and talk to another company. It could be worth it. So we could do that. My gut instinct is that you're not going to find one cheaper than Civic Plus, because they're like they have such a large base of support, which makes them more secure in terms of business. And I don't know. I'm not sure we're going to get anything cheaper than them, although we may get we'll get more expensive, but it's always going to come down to the bottom line of the dollar, right? Like if it's slightly more, maybe you can make an argument, but I don't think you can. When I look at Civic Plus, let me just share my screen again. That thing. This one. When I see that its annual cost is we'll say twice as much a year, you know, that's substantial. I don't think that we want to take that on for the next X number of years. And their upfront costs are lower, and I guess the makes the total cost lower as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a safe choice, it might not be the sexiest choice, given that we're starting from the bottom, I guess maybe going with the safe choice isn't the worst thing in the world.
It's going to be better than what we have.
Yeah.
No offense, Art, but it's going to have all those layers of security, and you're going to be able to sleep better at night, Art, because you're going to know it's.
I sleep really well.
It'll still be based
Okay.
on a 10-plus-year-old PHP CMS.
I worry about waking up, but I sleep well.
Ed, do you have, you said that you were trying to fit this into the budget in a way that is going to be as close as possible to what we're paying now. Do you know what the delta would be between what we're paying now and Civic Plus?
Hang on a second. Let's see if we can find it. I think for this particular year, I think there was like $3,800 in that line item.
Was that splitting out the email cost? Because I know Bluehost does
Well,
email.
actually, technically, you're right. It's more than that. We pay the web designer $3,800, but we pay additional to Bluehost. So it's
All
it's,
right. Well,
yeah.
that obviously wouldn't count because we'd still be paying for email.
Yeah, which is mostly storage. So.
So you're saying the annual cost right now is 3,800 and the annual cost is going to be less with Civic Plus?
I think that's what we have in there this year. Hang on, let me see if I can find it.
Well, Ed is looking for that. I have one more question for just anybody really. Do you think that Civic Plus, because it's what's been described as being a little clunky, will be a barrier to departments or heads or people who are in charge of commissions or committees? Will it be a barrier for them to update the data? Because your website's only as good as the updated content that it hosts. So if it's yeah, it's clunky, but it's doable. And once you get trained, it's not as nice or as sexy as the WYSIWYG that the other product has, but it won't, it shouldn't be a barrier in that regard. That's what I'm just curious. Will it be a barrier?
Yeah. I look at it this way, like how could they be on 250 towns in Massachusetts and be that bad,
Yeah, we started out the year with $2,160 as an appropriation, and we were spending at a greater margin than that. So we transferred $1,500 in at the special town meeting for a total of $3,186.
Oh, great. So we'd be saving money. Look at that.
Oh, minus the upfront costs.
Right.
Are we done discussing? Because I kind of think I've landed someplace. I'd like to put a motion out.
Yes, please do. Otherwise we'll be here all night.
I'm gonna recommend that for all things considered, whether it's fiscal responsibility and whatnot, but all things considered, I think I'm gonna recommend that we go with Civic Plus, what they've proposed.
Second, reluctantly.
Mm-hmm.
Third.
Hang on. Yeah, hang on. I'm just typing. I was trying to capture what you said. So your proposal is that we will propose to the select board that the town migrate to
Town
Civic.
migrate. Plus for its website content management system and hosting services. And I'm going to echo Dan, a little reluctant, but I think all things considered.
Yeah, I think we all would have liked the final site product, that's for sure.
All right, so let's take a vote. Lawrence?
Yeah, reluctantly, yes.
I will I as well. Megan?
Aye.
You can abstain.
And Breen, you're an aye.
Aye.
And Kim, you're an aye.
Okay.
So it passes unanimously.
Just one quick question. I didn't hear this, but Dan Breen, I know will be able to answer it. We get our current domain name.
We keep it.
Yeah, do we?
I would be shocked if that wasn't the case. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd keep your domain name. What we'd have to do is just change it's a record in the DNS servers that you just change the where it points to. It's
Well, I mean,
Pretty
don't
easy.
we have to buy this from Bluehost, or I mean,
Well,
you hold it now?
no,
Currently,
I-
Bluehost is in control of DNS, I would expect. So I don't know if we would transfer Repoint name servers over to Civic Plus. We'll figure that out later, I guess.
yeah, either Civic Plus could either host it or the domain, or we could just, I mean, if the domain name, if it's is it a dot, it's a .org?
It's a .org, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because there is the government website, the government ones that you're absolutely are yours and no one else's, and you get to have them. But the .org site, it's a transfer of ownership, and if you wanted to manage your own DNS on network solutions or something like that, you could just there's a process to transfer ownership.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, because everything keys off that right now, and he'd have to go through all those changes.
That's a great question, though. Art, thanks.
Should we be at .gov?
Oh, let's not.
Okay, never mind. Like,
Well, it's I mean, yeah, at some point that'll probably come up again with email addresses and,
Right.
whatever. So
okay, but at least we figured
One
it.
step at a time.
Yeah, one step at a time. Okay. So Ed, our next step is at the next select board meeting, we'll present the Civic Plus as the option, right?
that's fine. They've already approved the ARPA application I put in for the $15,000 to design, implement, and change over to a new town website, and I included the first year of the annual support in there also. So
Okay, so is it really worth us presenting, or can you just mention it?
well, I suppose probably a, shall we say, brief presentation to them on it and why, and I think is valuable.
Okay, so we'll take that action for next select board meeting. Okay, good stuff. The next item on our agenda is, are there any updates on the voice over IP?
No, we've got, I sent the information along to TPX. She's going to set up a meeting to go over some stuff with me, but I didn't hear anything back from Chris Sorensen. So if they need anything else, hopefully along the way, they will let us know.
Okay, sounds like the ball's in their court then. It's good. The next item of discussion is the Novus Insight work. How are we going to move that along? The next step.
Ed, correct? I like to go back to, uh, I know that last meeting we had, Ed, you had, I forget the name of the gentleman who came in, and there was some current concerns around.
John Shannon.
John Shannon,
Yes.
around cloud-based types of things, and I don't really have a good sense of where we landed, but I think that we should probably get on the same page, because the work that Novus would be doing is impacted, and the grant is impacted. So at this point, I think if I think we as a committee have to make a decision that we'll move forward with what Novus has proposed. And if so, then I think where we're sitting right now is I think they wanted to be able to, Ed, reach out to you so you could log into the administrative interface of the 365 tenant to see exactly what types of licensing we have, because that was in their budget proposal. So we may be able to reallocate those funds if we don't have to buy the licensing, and if we have the certain types of licensing. So they were going to help, I guess, us understand that, and then that would flesh out the question about if there's any room left in the budget. But I think they've already proposed the backups and the local and the cloud-based backups for our disaster recovery plan around cybersecurity and shoring up the server. The other outstanding question was the cost of migrating the current financials from the in-house server to the new in-house server. So, if we upgrade the server, we've got to migrate the financials. So Ed, I think those were the two outstanding things. So if we're moving forward, we've got to figure out the Microsoft 365 licensing, and we got to figure out what the cost is to move the financials to an updated or an upgraded server, and what that company would charge to do that work with Novus.
Let's start with that, because I thought about what Mr. What was his name? The man who came, and John had spoken to us. Thought about what he said between now and the last meeting, and I am of the opinion that we should not change our vector. So I would like to make the motion that we continue on with Novus and the work of the grant that we were pursuing.
I would support that motion, Dan.
So you'll second that? Okay. Okay. Let me just type this up. All right. Vote. Art Lawrence.
Yay.
Dan Breen.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
And I believe that's all unanimously passed. Okay, so now that we've made that, we've overcome that hurdle, or that discussion. Now, what's our next action?
I don't mind starting an email thread between Ed and Novus and myself, just asking them what they're waiting for from us. But my understanding were the two things I just mentioned, which was the any costs associated with the financials vendor assisting in migrating to the new server, and the information around our Microsoft 365 licensing to see if their grant proposal, if they have enough in the budget, or if we got too much in the budget and we can reallocate it to other parts of the project.
Okay. I thought I had sent that to them, but I will double check on that.
Okay, yeah, and they may have it. I was kind of out of that loop, so we'd only have to.
Well, it could also be that I thought I did and never did too. So
Kim, it doesn't help if you just want to be like the outsider, be like, "Oh, hey, just want to see where we're at with this."
Yeah, so. I'll throw an email out, Ed, to Carl, and I'll copy you in. Okay. And yeah, and then I'll let that be.
All right. Anything else on that subject? We're good. Okay, next subject is the consolidation of IT support. There was some emails about that, I believe.
I think that was something that Chris was talking about last time, and she had Chris was it was through the work. I think that some of the questions came up around the work with the committee around efficiencies and asking about answering the questions around the efficiencies committee. But without Chris here, I don't know if we have much more information to either share or updates of what that committee, where they're at.
Let's hold off on that until Chris is at the meeting. So next meeting, hopefully Chris will be able to attend and we'll discuss this topic. So pause until Chris could be present to discuss. Okay, discussion about the MLP handout. So
I didn't get a chance to read it yet, so I'll sit out.
You wrote a draft of it, right, Kim?
Yeah, I think what Chris sent out was what I had found from different places or towns, what the article would actually read. But what Chris had sent out was that had the article, but then the second or third page actually had what the handout would be. And it was really a mix of some of the slides that David and I presented to the select board that hit the importance of why we were doing this. But I think it's been so long, I need to look at it again myself. But
yeah, I'm trying to find it because I would pull it up and share the screen.
Chris just emailed it to us today, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, she did. It looked pretty good to me.
MLP handout. Did she attach it as a file?
Yeah, she did. I think it was either a Word or a PDF.
Okay. Oh, yeah, there it is. Just didn't scroll down far enough. Okay, so I will share my screen once again, and we can look through this, review, and take any comments, mark it up as we go. Let's see, share screen. Where's the button? Okay, you guys see my screen?
Yep, we're good.
Can you see the right screen? No.
Yeah, it says yes, the article.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So I guess my question for Ed is that I think this is, I forget exactly where I got all of this, that article wording from, but I think it may have been through some of it off of Wired West, but also
I think you did get it through Wired West, because the original one that I couldn't open up in the Google Docs, I know had a thing in it that said Wired West. So I will assume that's where you got it from, and that's this is the wording for the article that I utilized.
Yeah, excellent. And I think this is
So then the part that would be the handout is everything of the summary of the explanation.
Well, actually, there's two warrants. One that gets posted, which will just have the article in it.
Yeah.
And then there's the warrant that gets handed out at the annual town meeting. Has the article in it, has the summary explanation, and it has the motion in it. So.
Yep. Okay, I remember now. I've done this before.
and then this is where the handout really starts, was some of the slides, some of the work that the technology committee has done. So this would be, I would envision that starting where it says fiber to home, that this is something that is photocopied and available during the town meeting for people to have. But what Ed just explained would be the sort of the explanation of what a yes vote, no vote is on the article itself. But this would be the handout for people to be able to just read through, that would be associated with that that article.
Yeah, I think one of the keys is, at least with that, with the first vote on this, is that we emphasize that we aren't going to be bound justify really any commitment, you know, with the yes vote at this point in time. Just means we can move forward and do further research on it.
It's like the exploratory vote or permission for exploration.
Ed, do you think that that is clear enough in the summary information? And secondly, could you explain sort of the format for being able to speak directly to that during the annual town meeting? I haven't actually participated in that fashion before.
I mean, any registered voter can participate in the town meeting and follow up on that. And then if someone that isn't a registered voter wants to participate and we want to utilize their expertise or whatever, we have to get them vetted through Robert before the ATM.
Mhm.
Can you remind me again the dates of the annual town meeting?
June 7th, 7 p.m., Norris School.
June 7th, 7 p.m.
So would it behoove us to ask one of the potential providers to be present and speak? What do you guys think? No?
I think that's a little too premature. I think,
Not at this point in time.
yeah, no,
Okay.
I think honestly what Ed said was perfect. Just really emphasizing that this is very preliminary.
Got it.
There's no commitments here that are being made. There's no vote tonight that's being made that commits the town in any fashion. What the vote really is intended to do is to get us moving, to be able to explore more with companies, to be able to bring back much more information for a second vote that would be a more potential binding vote, but not this time around.
Yes, I see that twice. We kind of state that here. There's the same bolded sentence and what the vote means, and in the summary and explanation. So it does not obligate the town to establish an MLP. So I find it pretty clear through these documents that is the objective. In terms of the handout, I think we're kind of talking about some of the benefits of using or going down this approach. Next steps, town MLP votes. So that's where here's where we're saying like this is this vote, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the vote that we're calling for.
And if it's no, then I don't know really. I mean, those other next steps really, we're sort of back. We got to look back around and either try to have more conversations around with folks, maybe survey if this committee wanted to send out a survey and figure out why, what information that they, I'm not really sure what a no vote completely would mean, except for the fact that we've missed this opportunity. We could maybe next year put it before the voters again, and maybe there needs to be more public education before we get to that step.
Yeah, I think this is great, and I think when this comes up to vote, we'll just one of us or two of us will speak and talk about how. I know we did that community survey about where broadband came up as one of the top things people were looking for. Talk about how this is not emphasized. So once again, it's not a binding vote, that it's just to explore. I think we can speak to this, and this is a good start. This is good for what we should hand out.
Where did this one come from?
Chris's email.
No, yeah, but do we know where this document came from?
This document came from, I created this document based on the slides that David and I put together that was presented at the select board meeting. So these are actually copies of slides from a PowerPoint presentation that David and I gave to the select board just to gauge their support for us to continue the work that we're doing.
Okay.
Dan,
scroll down a little bit, Dan, please. Stop. Whoever's got this document,
yeah,
I don't really think under those considerations that we really want to use AARP funds. We might want to use ARPA funds. But, you know, for those of us that actually qualify and are members of the AARP,
I must have gotten a solicitation in the mail that day.
I mess up those acronyms between the two all the time. So
I have a
So
feeling that's not the first time that's happened. Yeah.
but I was just reading it going, okay, did this come from Wired West or, you know, but yeah.
No, that would be me. Okay, so the true acronym is
ARPA.
RPA.
ARPA, yes. ARPA.
ARPA. Okay, I will fix that.
There's only one spot in the document that is like that.
Yeah,
Searching.
I just got another mailing from AARP over the weekend, so it was that one really stuck out in my mind.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my free luggage, but you know. So there was one other question I was going to. There was one other.
And then if you're going to use it for a handout at town meeting, I mean, just think about it. 1 page, 2-sided is excellent. The most I'd go to is probably 2 pages, 2 sides.
So we got three pages. So maybe condense a little bit.
Just a suggestion. Not saying you can't do it, but just a suggestion.
So in terms of the logistics of doing that, how can we go about copies and those types of things?
Well, we won't be able to do color copies. We can do black and white. What I will do is once we know what that final version is, I will send it along to Robert and get him to vet it. And then once he says yes, I can arrange to make the copies and get them, because they'll have to be to the town clerk's office by noon the day before the town meeting, but we can arrange for that to happen.
Okay, so I will I'll fix the typo. I'll see if I can consolidate it some. I can still have it readable. 3 pages, maybe I could get it on 2. I'm not really sure without really taking that font and
Like I say, I mean, if you really feel it all needs to be there and 3 pages double-sided, fine. But you know, I just find, you know, shorter and condensed, people pay more attention to it. So
okay, I'll give that a shot and I'll send you a final copy then.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Well, I don't think are we gonna have a meeting between now and the town meeting. Probably. Well, maybe. With the 6th.
No, you won't.
Okay. So, do we have a motion to?
Oh, we I take that back. You would. It would
Okay.
be the 6th. It would be the day before.
Okay. So
Sorry about that.
we can look at the updates at the 6th meeting then. Review final copy, but it would already have had to have been submitted to the town clerk by then, right?
Correct. Well, actually, first step is it's got to be vetted by the moderator.
So I guess I make the motion that we accept this as written with the changes that we have suggested tonight.
So moved.
All right. And the changes were the AARP and consolidation of the document. Take up last page space. Okay, so motion. Sorry. Okay, there's the Valley and Florence. Breen.
Right.
Floric
Aye.
and Gentile.
And Kyle,
So
aye.
close, so close.
I know, that's okay. Everyone does that. The Italian, when they came over, my great-grandparents or grandparents were Gentili. So
Oh, it's Italian. Okay, got it.
yes,
Okay.
very Italian.
All right. That's that. Are there any other topics that cannot wait until the next meeting?
I have a quick question about the next meeting. I know
Yes.
it's the 2 weeks on June 6th, but isn't that the conservation meeting for art?
Let's see.
Yeah,
could
were
be
we gonna
wrong.
try to do?
Oh,
their
that's
first
right.
and third?
It's the second and fourth rather than every 2 weeks. That's true. So that would be the 13th.
So the next meeting will be the 6/13, 2022. Okay.
Thank you, man.
All right. Is there anything else before we move to adjourn? All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate your time, and have a nice evening.
Good
Thank
night.
you all. Have a good
Bye.
evening.
Have a good
See you
night.
later.
Thanks.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.